Hey, this is Jody Roundhouse with the Roundhouse Report. Uh, Commenting or making a video for Luciano on Minds.com. www.minds.com, Minds, MINDS.com /ESE underscore CHOLITO at SA Cholito, /HA underscore Cholito. Luciano. Did you pick that for Lucky Luciano? I'm curious. Anyhow, something about Iran. Yeah, how Iran put batteries, anti-ship batteries on their coasts and stuff. They've been there for a long time. And Iran actually has, uh, many islands in the Persian Gulf are controlled by Iran. They're owned by Iran. They're part of Iranian territory. A lot of people don't realize that. I didn't for a long time. I pulled up a close-up map. It's a very cluttered area. The Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, especially. There's little islands everywhere, and Iran owns them. But we have the Fifth Fleet. We have a fleet. I believe it's the Fifth Fleet stationed in Bahrain, right next to Iran, and that's actually we publicly announced about a year ago. Goodness, look at my thinning hair. We publicly announced about a year ago that we have an energy projected weapon, a laser, currently deployed and on active duty aboard one of our vessels at that massive naval facility of Iran. So, you had said something along the lines of regarding the news report of them putting all those missile batteries along the coast of the Strait of Hormuz. I think a third of the world's oil travels every day, something like that. I'm not sure. I get it confused with the South China Sea. So, that's nothing new. I guess they added missiles to it. And you had said something about Saudi Arabia must be responding. Well, we've been, just as a quick breakdown, and this is part 3, by the way. I should be dating this right out the gate. It's April 11th. Happy post Good Friday, 2020, April 11th. And coronavirus is happening. So I'm not in my usual quarters. Social distancings. So, but still the Roundhouse Report. Part 3 of how we were doing great, we being the United States, toward 2019, toward the end, and then bam, coronavirus hits. Thank you, China. Boom, devastation. So now everyone's like, what's going on? But so just starting out blank now, with regards to Iran, right? They've done a lot of crap. They did a lot of crap to us in 2019, shooting down an unmanned drone. It was a big drone. It was one of our big boys. I believe it was a Poseidon, a giant, very expensive, very high-tech drone. They killed it. They shot it down. We say international waters. They say not. We produce satellite video. They don't. I don't know. Regardless, they shot it down. We did not respond publicly. Cyber operations are becoming more and more the craze, the fad, the reality. Cyber warfare. And we, using jamming technologies, we dropped at least one, possibly 2 of their drones about a month later. They just fell out of the sky. And we made it clear, though, when we killed General Soleimani, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Soleimani, it's the general of the Quds Force, Quds Force. The Quds Force is responsible for any military operations, or any operations really, outside of Iran. They're like their expeditionary unit. Quds Force, they're elite soldiers. We made clear, they were poking at us like they have been poking at us for more than a decade. So they've been poking at Trump here, poking at Trump there, poking at Europe. They seized that British oil tanker. First they got chased off by a British frigate. then they balled up and came in return reinforced, and they took the oil tanker. The frigate backed off. Then that was right after the Strait of Gibraltar, where the Brits captured a oil tanker that was trying to smuggle oil into Iran, or into Syria rather, to help Assad with the Syrian civil war. That was later released by the Brits after capitulating to Iran by allowing their own ship, British flagship, to be captured. I believe it was British flagged. The once great British Navy just said, all right, the empire, the British Empire of old, roll over in its grave. So the boat that the Brits had captured that was laden with oil for the Syrians, who are desperately in need, was released. And a few months later, we caught it via satellite right off the coast of Syria. So good job, guys. The United States, though, under Trump, Iran rather, kept prodding us, shooting down a drone, doing this, doing that, screwing with the Europeans, threatening, we're going to increase our uranium production limits and all, we're doing this, we're doing that, trying to, because they're backed into a corner. They have a lot of civilian unrest in Iran, and they have throughout 2019. Prior to that, the Green Revolution in 2009 is a good indication of where things were heading, and that was more than 10 years ago. It's 2020 now. So, anyhow, the constant prodding by Iran ever since Trump came into office in 2017, 3 years ago, we made it clear when we dropped a bomb on General Soleimani. He arrived at Baghdad International Airport, got into a car with his bodyguard. The car, the white SUV pulled off, boom, Hellfire missile hit it and killed him. We made it clear that we aren't afraid to go overkill. No pun intended. If you screw with us. Now, this was a series of events. Wow, this will be complicated, and I'm tired, but I'm going to try to break this down as quickly and simply as possible. When ISIS invaded Iraq in their blitzkrieg in 2014, the Sunnis in the north were overwhelmed. The Kurds were overwhelmed. The Shiites were pushed back almost to the gates of Baghdad. At that point, Iran, which has exerted great influence in Iraq ever since Saddam was toppled in 2003, Iran stepped up, and the, quote, popular mobilization units, end quote, were formed to protect Baghdad. That's how all this started. This was Iran's segue. This was how Iran got its foot. It was already in the door, but I guess this is how they kicked the freaking door open the rest of the way. The popular organization units is an umbrella term for about 50 to 100 militias, 60-70% of whom pledged allegiance directly to Iran, not Baghdad. No, Iran. The biggest, the best trained, the best equipped, some of whom actually had Iranian soldiers there with them, advising them, fighting alongside them, giving them advanced equipment. Well, one of these groups, Hezbollah was officially formed. Hezbollah is an Iranian proxy that was created in Lebanon in the early 1980s to counter Israel. And Hezbollah basically controls Lebanon de facto, especially since its government collapsed recently. Hezbollah is, at this point, especially given their combat experience in their 2006 war against Iran, as well as their ongoing combat experience inside of Syria, in and around Syria, and the Syrian civil war since 2011, they're like a professional. And them being supplied by Iran, who in turn is supplied by Russia, they've become almost a standing army. They just need to keep having bodies and zeal. They've become pretty good fighters, Hezbollah. Not many people know, but the Iranians about 20 years ago opened up a branch of Hezbollah in Central America, South America, Venezuela. Yep, a lot of Americans don't realize that one of our main enemies has a paramilitary organization right south of our borders, and they look Spanish. So in these caravans, I wonder how many people have already snuck up. This would be Quds Force, the unit of the military, the general of whom we killed. We dropped a bomb on him because had this newly formed, or rather newly declared Hezbollah branch in Iraq, to circle back around, fired some rockets into an American base. This happened months ago, so I'm going to try to recollect the best that I can. and I think killed like somebody, maybe like killed an American. He was an American citizen, but he wasn't a military. He was a contractor, and like wounded several American soldiers. I think he was killed. He may have just been wounded. I'm not sure, but at that time there were protests going on against the actual government of Baghdad. This is when it gets complicated. It's so freaking complex. There were legitimate protests because all these Iraqis in southern Iraq, around Basra, Baghdad, a lot of them are Shiite. Well, pretty much all of them are Shiite. Freaking hair. There's a bald hairline there. It's trying to get it covered. I can get it covered, but not now. Whatever. They were having legitimate protests against the government's corruption, the government of Baghdad, and also protests against Iran. They actually attacked the Iranian embassy in Baghdad and like set it on fire. They were shouting slogans, "No to Iran," "Iran's the real enemy," things like that. Because Iran has systematically infiltrated the parliamentary system introduced to Iraq in 2004 through bribes, through direct placement of people who had taken exile inside of Iran under Iraq, Saddam's Iraq. They were reintroduced back into Iraq. And al-Sadr. Al-Sadr's father was a very influential Shiite cleric, al-Sadr. His son, Muqtada al-Sadr, like Lion King, I think, Muqtada al-Sadr, he is the leader of some branch, I don't know, I forget what it's called, in the parliament, and they recently picked up a whole bunch of seats. They're the majority branch, al-Sadr's militia. We fought a running pitched battle with them in 2004 in Iraq, al-Sadr's army. The Mahdi army is what it was called then. We destroyed them, but it was bizarre because it was like a giant ancient cemetery. It was like 5 miles by 5 miles. And we had infantry moving through with like close air support. And I don't know how many, the shelling and the firing, I don't know how many bodies were upturned from the shelling, the coffins thrown out and the bones scattered. I don't know. It's just bizarre. But we cornered them into a mosque and we made a deal with them saying, "Listen, al-Sadr, we know if we kill you, we're just going to make a martyr out of you." Again, his father was very influential. A giant segment of Baghdad, which is a massive city, is named after, it's called Sadr City. It's named after his father. It's huge. He has huge support. So you don't want to kill him. You don't want to arrest him. I mean, we made a deal. We said, "Look, put down your arms and we'll give you a shot at the parliamentary system here. We'll give you some political power." That was that. Weirdly enough, al-Sadr went into exile in Iran because he knew they wanted to kill him. He probably would be dead had he stayed in Iraq. He would have been assassinated indirectly by the United States. We would have gotten somebody to do it. So he went into hiding in Iran. He has now reemerged at the head of his party, and he has these protests against the Iraqi government were ongoing, and the first day of the protest, the Iraqi government opened fire. I mean, they killed hundreds and hundreds of people throughout months and months of protesting, near daily, especially after the Friday Islamic ceremony. Many people were killed and wounded. But once the movements began to shift toward Iranian corruption and influence, that's when Iran stepped in and began to shift the narrative against Iraq, or against the United States' presence within Iraq. So they fired some shells into that base. And at the same time, they came against the timeline's sketchy. They sent their people, and by their people, soldiers in not in uniform, whatever, protesters, whatever you want to call it, quote, protesters. And they managed to bypass the freaking green zone, which is the most heavily fortified area in the world in terms of a diplomatic compound. That's where all the high diplomats from around the world inside of Baghdad reside. It's called the green zone. Very highly fortified. You have to cross a bridge to get to it. Well, the protest movement, again, popular mobilization units have since ballooned since 2014. It's a sidebar. It's now about 100,000, 150,000 strong. 60-70% of those are now consolidating under a single leader and have openly pledged allegiance to Iran. So Iran basically has a standing army inside of Iraq right now. The United States has about 6,700 troops. We are inside of Iraq. We are consolidating into the the major base is inside of in the deserts of western Iraq, isolated. Giant air base, Al-Ad Air Base, I believe, and then the remainder, however many thousands, are consolidated within the green zone to keep what I'm about to tell you from happening again. Our embassy was stormed. Throwback to 1979, right, in Iran? They managed to break into the reception area, but we have high-tech crap, so we sealed up the door so they didn't actually get into the embassy proper. They got into the embassy reception area, though. It surprised everybody. They threw some cocktails, some Molotov cocktails. They weren't going to leave. They camped out there for overnight, and then some backroom deals were made. And in the morning, an official, I believe he was in uniform, an official from the newly recognized, they'd been around, but recognized Hezbollah, I forget, it's like Al-Baghi Iraq Hezbollah is the official name, whatever, it's a branch of Hezbollah inside of Iraq. He came and he told the protesters, go ahead and disperse. Under orders of al-Sadr, go ahead and disperse. So they did. Then we killed Soleimani. We said, look, we're done. You guys have been like pricking us with needles. We just freaking killed your literally their best. They're not just simply their best general, but a giant figurehead within the general overall movement of the Islamic Revolution and their expansionist policies throughout the Middle East. General Soleimani was not simply a general in a conceptual sense. He was a field commander. He was a battlefield commander. He has been instrumental in helping Bashar al-Assad in Syria win the civil war, him and Russia. A large contingent of Iranian troops, Quds Force, working in collaboration with Iran's creation in Lebanon, Hezbollah, working in collaboration with the remnants of al-Assad's army and any militia who wished to fight alongside against the opposition rebels, which the United States supported. Al-Assad had a large number of Iranian troops and Hezbollah's troops under his command, and he performed well. Again, he had massive Russian air power, but within the context of like how Persian/Arab/Kurds fight, he did pretty well with the air. He needed the air power though. The Kurds, they'll beat you down without the air power, but sometimes they really need it too. The Kurds are the best though. So we made it clear that the age of this screwing with us is over, and we just killed the guy. And they're like, whoa, what just happened, right? Well, they've since, I'm sure, consulted heavily with Russia and with China. We've had many surge deployments that have gone into Iran throughout 2019. Huge surge deployments. We have enough troops and assets in that region. It's estimated to be up to 70,000. Many in Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, the UAE. In Qatar, we have the largest air base in the world for the United States. We have massive amounts we have a THAAD missile defense system. The United States owns 4 THAAD batteries, at least publicly declared 4. One is in Guam, one is in South Korea to counter China under the pretense of countering North Korea. The other is in I don't know where. And then the 4th is now in Saudi Arabia. Not much is known of the THAAD. It's a thermo high altitude. I don't know what it stands for. It's all caps THHAAD, I believe. Just type that in missile defense. You'll see it. Not much is known, but what is known is people are afraid of it. People who do know what it's about, like the Chinese government, the North Korean government, the Iranians, Russia, they're all like, dude, no, man, no. Don't put this near us. Because it does a lot more than simply shoot down missiles. There's a lot of high-tech sensors and different types of jamming technologies and overlaid sensor technologies and radar that overlays and overlaps and frequencies, all sorts of crap. No one really knows, but we do all know that the world leaders are terrified of this weapon system. So we moved the THAAD in. We have a Marine Expeditionary Unit, which consists of about 3,000 Marines specially trained to assault a beachhead using actual hovercrafts. If you YouTube that, it's pretty cool to look at. 3,000 Marines specially trained to assault a beach using, they have massive air power from the air, Apache helicopter gunships, namely, but also they'd be working in coordination with an aircraft carrier strike group, so you have those guys. And then you have the artillery fire from the guns of the ship themselves, mostly, I guess, Tomahawk missiles, really, at this point. It's not World War II. They land on a beach or on an island, like I said earlier in the video. The Strait of Hormuz, Persian Gulf is just riddled with, speckled with these little islands that Iran controls, and they have missiles on them. To circle back to the original point for Luciano on Minds.com. They've, I guess, added missiles to these islands. I don't know. Nobody knows but the intelligence agencies, and they're sure scrap not going to tell us, not under Trump at least. But we've made it clear that, we have enough troops there, like I was saying. The THAAD, the amphibious assault unit, you laying 3,000 Marines on a beach backed by air and sea power. That's dangerous. Just long enough so we can bring the other 70,000 troops in the region to bear. We do know, I've tried to find out where the troops are located, can't find it out, which is a good thing. That means our enemies will have, at least they won't have open source resources to go to. But we do know that there are at least 7,500 to 10,000 troops inside of Afghanistan, at least 6,700 troops inside of Iraq, and technically none inside of Syria. But no, we do admit that we have 200 inside of at the base at Al-Tanf, 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 one of the main corridors leading from Tehran in Iran to Damascus in the Mediterranean, the Shiite Crescent. We have 200 special operations guys there with the British, and we have an unknown number. This is publicly declared. It's supposed to be like 800 or 1,200 armored personnel, tanks, that have been moved within the past 6 months into the oil fields of eastern and northeastern Syria. So I'm at 22 minutes. Nobody's watching this. All right. If you are, just put a period in the comment section. I'll be like, wow, that dude's interested in this subject. But I'm going to get back to studying. We got some more videos to make about Neanderthals and Cro-Magnons, whatever. All right, guys, please subscribe. Please bring your friends. Good Rhinos out. Hope you learned something. I'm trying to get better at teaching. So.